Thanks, Jacko. Thankfully now I don't have all of those portfolios because we had such a successful election. I've been able to offload some of those responsibilities. In fact, the Justice portfolio is now gone to a Cork man, your own Jonathan O'Brien. So I've been left with the whip, making sure that they're all in place, in time and everything else, and also one of the key portfolios into the future, given the economic crisis we're in, that of social protection. So hopefully we will be able to, through the new Dáil and through the big, large Sinn Féin team that was elected, thanks to the help of Republicans throughout the country, we'll be able to get a message across to ensure the protection of those most vulnerable in our society, but also to ensure that we are building towards a new Ireland. When I was telling my daughter there during the week that I was travelling to Kerry, she was asking me, she's 7, she was asking me, why are you going all the way down there? And I said, well, it's a commemoration, Republican commemoration. Do you want to come? And she says, no, I don't like marches. But who is it for? And I tried to explain to her, and kind of an old gaze and dazed look came across her face once I started getting into the details. So I decided to try and bring it back home to her, and I said, you know the shopping centre you'll go sometimes to with your mother in Kimmage? It's a super queen shopping centre. Well, there's a plaque there, I said, to remember a building that was there before. And she says, I know the shopping centre. I said, well, that's where Con Keating, one of the people who set off to Kerry, was based. And it was there, Larkfield House, where the Plunketts had set up basically an IRA training camp for many months before the Rising. Michael Collins was there with many others. I think it was 50 unemployed Irish men returned from Liverpool and London and set up base there, training, weapons training in particular, but also making munitions, grenades and that, which were eventually used during the 1916 Rising. And one of the Plunketts kind of was also very involved in setting up a wireless studio or radio studio in Larkfield House. And it was there that Con Keating went with his expertise. He was regarded at the time in Ireland as one of the experts in wireless technology, but he was also a Republican and IRB man. And he travelled from there with the instructions to come to Carsiveen to take over the wireless station here and to send out messages to British ships in the vicinity to try and divert them, warships, because at the time you had the First World War, warship, and divert them towards Scotland in particular, to allow free passage for the odd, which was travelling to Ireland with a load of weapons, to ensure that Kerry and Munster would be able to take its full part in the Rising. And regretfully, history shows us that the odd didn't properly reach its destination, unknown to the British, that they had already knowledge of its coming and that they intercepted it. But the men who were in the two cars travelling from Killarney, from the railway station, as we've seen when you come down this roadway, think of it in a dark night in the middle of April. No street lights, very poor car lights, kind of what faced them. And kind of now, thankfully, there's bollards on the pier, but at the time they drove straight off the pier to the death of 3 men. The other car had continued on. The second man, I was explaining to my daughter again, the second man who died, Charlie Monaghan. Last weekend I was in Short Strand canvassing. So again I was able to explain to her a link kind of between what I do today and something that happened 95 years ago. And I think that's important for today's generation, is that they understand that there are links between today and the past. And I was able to explain to her and show her a photograph I took of a mural in Short Strand dedicated to Charlie Monaghan, who also travelled to take part in the Rising, and his role in the Rising was to travel to Kerry to ensure that Con Keating and others were able to carry out the work that they intended annoyed by the RIC or the likes. The third man who died at the time, Donald Sheehan, he's from where my grandmother lived and where my mother was born in the vicinity of Newcastle West. So again, another link between me and kind of the three volunteers that we're commemorating today. And I think sometimes, especially for young children, you have to make it simple like that. And I think that's key for us as Republicans, to ensure that commemorations, as they come up over the next number of years, and we're going into a period where commemorations of Irish history are going to be very, very important. We're looking into 100 years of the founding of the Irish Volunteers in 2013. And if we were to wait on this date to commemorate or to celebrate the achievements of the Irish Volunteers, we'd be left waiting. So I think it is important that small commemorations such as this, but also other events, are planned over the next 5 to 10 years, because from 2013 right up to 2021, 22, 23, we need to be celebrating and learning more about our history, because our history determines what we are now today. But more importantly, I think for us as Sinn Féin activists, we need to ensure that the public understand that the message that we're coming across with today, that we're promoting in the Dáil, in the council chambers, and every platform that we can get, is a message that was as true 100 years ago as it is today, is that the Irish people need to have control of their destiny. That's sovereignty. They also need to have control of their natural resources. And those natural resources were estimated to be at the value of 700 billion, not 700 million, 700 billion off the shore of the west coast of Ireland. And Irish people will get no benefit whatsoever from the Corrib gas field or the other Atlantic gas fields and oil fields which have been discovered and is sitting there to be the profits reaped by multinational companies. So we need to change that, and that is one of the major discussions that's going to be in the Dáil next week. Because we have additional numbers, we can set the agenda in the Dáil on a regular basis. So we have put down a motion for next week to discuss changing the licensing laws to do with the oil and gas exploration off the coast of Ireland, but also inshore as well. Loch Allen has predicted that the find at Loch Allen of gas and oil is predicted to be 80 billion. So when you think of the scale of the economic disaster that we're in at the moment, where Ireland is in hock because of the last government, but also because of this new government, up to the tune of 100 billion, and then you look at our natural resources, something that we as a state, as a nation, control and should control, to give that away in the way that previous governments have given it away is scandalous. It is economic treason, to use a word which was bandied about during the election. It is economic treason when you consider that we own that, we can own it still, and we can change the laws to ensure that all of the oil and gas which is landed in Ireland benefits the Irish people. And that has happened in every other country in the world. Where there is oil and gas found, the state, the country, the nation benefits. In Ireland, no. Because of the corruption of Fianna Fáil over the years, it has been given away without any benefit to the Irish people. And that is true in the Corrib gas field, as it is in every other gas field off the shore. Because what will happen is that will be landed, and we will end up having to compete against British interests in particular, because the gas pipeline is linked to Britain. And we will have to compete on a commercial basis with them for our own gas. And that is the biggest scandal. I mentioned earlier the mission that the three men, well, in fact, the whole group who were travelling that ill-fated night was to do with capturing the wireless station in Cahersiveen. Well, one of the men who was in the first car managed to get back to Dublin afterwards, David Burke, and he took part in the first wireless transmission, probably the first party political broadcast, if you want, on Easter week. On Easter Tuesday, they managed to get the wireless station just opposite the GPO working, and they managed to broadcast a message to ships in the Atlantic, who then broadcast it on to other ships. So in America, it was picked up, and they knew about the rising before many in Britain, and probably before the British government could mobilise or censor the message. The Americans knew that there was a rising in Ireland at the time. And the reason I mentioned that is that was new technology, that was new methods. And I think over the years, the Republicans have shown that they are imaginative. The ingenuity of the IRA for many years kind of amazed everybody. And this is an example of it. What the three lads who died in that accident were about to achieve was a radical idea. It was imaginative, and they were moving or pushing out the boundaries of the technology at the time. And I believe that a huge degree of thanks is due to Republicans throughout the country, but especially in South Kerry, for all of the commitment, time and contribution that they made to the struggle for many, many years. Much of it was quiet contribution. I have heard from many of my friends who live in Kerry, and many who visited Kerry in the dark days of the Troubles, about the storehouse that was South Kerry, and all of the backup team basically that was in this area. This was one, like many other areas, a backbone to the struggle. And while methods and policy and direction is slightly changed at the moment, we do need this area, South Kerry, but every area in Ireland, to become the backbone of the struggle once again. And I know from the crowd here that you are all dedicated to the work that's ahead of us, and I commend you for that, because we haven't achieved the United Ireland. We don't have control of our sovereignty. We don't have control, as I said, of our natural resources. It has been given away. And the vision that those men died for, that many people fought and died for, that went to prison for, or that suffered the consequences of Garda harassment for many years, that hasn't been achieved. And in fact, if you look at the way that this state is fawning over a British Queen who is due to land in Ireland on the anniversary of the Dublin Monaghan bombings perpetrated by agents of the British Crown, that just shows how much work that we have to do in the next couple of years and probably decades to come.
Yeah.
There is a simple lesson that we have, is that we're Irish Republicans, and we will not bow down to a British Queen or to a government which is willing to fawn to such a Queen.
Yes.
I told the lads earlier I'd be brief, but I also told them that I was a politician, and sometimes I ramble on. So I'll try and finish up with one or two more comments. One is a simple lesson, and it's a simple lesson that Pierce Doherty in particular has been putting across in the Dáil and on the airwaves. The Irish economy at the moment is banjaxed, and if they keep cutting back, it will be further banjaxed. And if you keep borrowing money to invest into a banjaxed bank or banjaxed banks, the situation will get worse. I didn't do economics in school. I didn't study it in college. But I know the simple lessons. If you keep putting money into a black hole, it will disappear. You have to invest to accumulate to get out of that black hole. And that means investing in people's jobs. That means making sure that people are back working and paying tax. That means that people have money in their pockets to spend in the local shops. If you cut back on social welfare, if you keep introducing the likes of the universal social charge, or increase the taxation on those low paid in our society, then they will not have money to spend. If they have no money to spend, jobs will go. The local shop will go, the local co-op will go, the local factory, they will all go. That means more unemployment, that costs the state money. So the policy that Fianna Fáil, but also this government have pursued, is going to get us deeper into a hole than we're in. And that's why I believe that the stronger team in the Dáil will ensure that they will not be able to sell off our state assets, that they will not be able to reduce people's wages or their social welfare payments any further without a fight. And I think that's a challenge to every Republican, every socialist, every working class person, every farmer in this country, is to stand up and fight against cutbacks. Because if they cut back, our economy is going to be worse. The other challenge for us as a party is we have an election in the 6 counties. As I said, I was canvassing last week, and it's a major challenge for us to increase the party vote in these times in the Assembly election. So whatever people can do to help, I know you're a lot further away from the 6 counties here than I am from Dublin. It's only an hour away from my house now at this stage. I think you can try, and even if it's just words of encouragement or phone calls of encouragement to our colleagues in the 6 counties, I think that will pay dividends. So hopefully you'll be able to play your role, but also the role that they asked us when I was up last weekend with a team from my area. They asked us, what they're looking for is for us to grow in the 26 counties, that we have to increase the number of TDs into the future, the number of councillors and the number of active Republicans in this state, because this is the area that we can grow. We can go from 14 TDs to God knows what, and take over and make sure that in the future that you have a Republican government in this country, north and south, and that we have achieved what those men and women fought for in 1916, that the 3 volunteers that we stand here to commemorate gave their lives for, is a united Ireland, and to ensure that that is a united Ireland and a government that reflects the proclamation of 1916 and the democratic programme thereafter in the Céad Dáil. Gura Mágrat.
Yes.